The galaxy had seen wars before. Empires had risen and fallen, and fleets had battled across the stars for centuries. Every species believed it understood power. They believed they had seen every kind of weapon, every kind of ship. But on this day, all of them would be proven wrong. A massive gathering of fleets hung in the dark void of space. Thousands of ships from dozens of species floated in formation. Their commanders had come together with pride and confidence. For years they had ruled their sectors without challenge. They believed that no new power could rise against them. Their weapons could shatter moons. Their dreadnoughts could burn worlds. And yet they gathered nervously now, for something strange had been detected. At first, the signal had seemed weak, a faint blip in the darkness appearing on their long-range scanners. Nothing about it seemed dangerous. It was just one ship moving slowly without escorts. Many laughed at the idea. How could one ship matter against thousands? But the signal grew stronger and the image became clearer. What they saw was not like any ship they had known. The unknown vessel emerged from the void with no sound, no broadcast, and no recognition code. It had no flags, no marks of any empire. Its shape was unlike theirs, vast, circular, and layered with strange armor that reflected starlight. The fleets grew tense. Their admirals demanded answers, but there were none. Every attempt to contact the ship failed. It ignored every hail, every warning. Some of the younger captains whispered that it was a ghost ship. Others said it was a relic from a forgotten age. But the veterans knew better. Nothing that silent, nothing that calm was harmless. The unknown ship moved forward with steady pace as if the fleets in its path were nothing. From his command chair, an alien admiral of the Dracoth Empire narrowed his eyes. His race had crushed worlds with fire. He had commanded hundreds of battles. Yet, for the first time in years, he felt a chill crawl along his spine. Something about the ship was wrong. Its silence was not weakness. Its stillness was not fear. It was the silence of something that had no need to speak. The fleet spread out surrounding the unknown vessel from all sides. Their weapons glowed, ready to fire. Thousands of barrels, cannons, and missile tubes locked on. The admirals believed they were showing strength. But to the crews, it felt like desperation. The ship kept coming, closer and closer. Not fast, not threatening, just steady. It did not break formation. It did not flinch at the sight of the fleets. It moved like a predator walking into the middle of prey that thought itself safe. Whispers spread across comms. What kind of ship is that? Why does it not answer? Who dares to come here alone? The commanders ignored the whispers. They barked orders. They promised victory. But deep inside, many of them felt the same fear as their crews. The silence grew heavier with each passing second. No one fired, not yet. The admirals wanted to test it. They wanted to see if it would respond. But still, the unknown ship gave nothing. No message, no weapon, no reaction. Finally, a fleet leader of the Jiran Dominion broke the silence. His ship, a massive dreadnought armed with planet-cracking beams, fired first. The void lit up in blue fire as a beam of energy cut across space and struck the unknown warship. For a moment, the fleets held their breath. But when the light faded, the ship was still there, untouched, unmoved. Shock ran through the alien commanders. More ships opened fire. Missiles streaked through the dark, exploding against the hull. Plasma cannons roared, striking again and again. The battlefield lit up with fire and destruction. Yet when the storm ended, the warship floated on, silent and unbroken. Its armor glowed faintly as if mocking them. The crews of the fleets felt dread. This was no ordinary ship. Whatever it was built to face destruction without care. It was not a relic. It was not a ghost. It was something new. Something dangerous. The admirals gave more orders. They demanded more fire. But fear spread faster than commands. The younger officers began to whisper a new word. A word that had not been spoken in generations. Human. The legends of humanity had been buried under centuries of empire rule. Stories told in shadows, warnings told to children. But the veterans remembered. Humanity had once fought against the galaxy. And when they fought without mercy. They built weapons that defied reason, ships that no empire could match. Humanity had vanished long ago, leaving behind only stories. Stories most had laughed at. But now, as they watched this silent warship endure the fire of entire fleets, the laughter died. The stories were real. Humanity had returned. The unknown ship finally slowed. It turned slightly, its weapons glowing for the first time. The light along its hull burned bright, like the awakening of a giant. The fleets froze. Thousands of ships, yet none dared to move. In that moment, every commander felt the truth. This was not just another enemy. This was not just another war. This was something greater. The silent arrival was over. The nightmare was about to begin. The silence after the bombardment was crushing. The alien fleets, proud and countless, had poured their fire into the strange warship. Every kind of weapon had been unleashed. Missiles, beams, plasma storms, kinetic strikes. The stars themselves seemed to burn with the fury of their attack. And yet when the light cleared, the human vessel still floated there. No cracks, no smoke. No damage. For a long moment, no one spoke. Entire bridges of alien warships went quiet. Crews sat frozen, staring at the impossible image on their screens. Even the admirals, who had barked orders with pride, felt their voices die in their throats. The unknown ship remained still, as if mocking them. Its dark armor gleamed with reflected fire. Its lights glowed faintly like the eyes of a predator waiting for prey to panic. Then at last it moved. Not fast, not rushed. With slow and measured precision, it turned. The vast body of the ship shifted until its weapons faced the gathered fleets. A wave of unease swept through the commanders. For the first time, they realized that the human vessel had not yet fired a single shot. An admiral of the Vorthak Empire slammed his fist against his armrest. His voice thundered through the comms, desperate to hide his fear. It cannot withstand forever. Fire again. All ships, fire everything. The fleets obeyed. Thousands of weapons roared once more. The void lit with fire brighter than suns. But this time, even as the storm raged, the human ship answered. A glow spread across its hull. Lines of light, sharp and cold, traced along the armor. Panels shifted and weapons awoke. The ship unleashed its first strike. A beam, pure and white, tore through the dark. It did not roar. It did not waver. It was clean, silent, and final. Where it touched, an entire formation of alien cruisers vanished. No wreckage. No survivors. Just nothing. The fleets gasped. Admirals shouted. Panic erupted. This was no ordinary weapon. It did not burn or explode. It erased. Before the alien commanders could recover, the warship struck again. Another beam. Another formation gone. The void was filled with the dying lights of ships that had existed only seconds before. The alien fleet scrambled. Evasive maneuvers. Scatter the formations. Keep distance. But the human ship was calm. It did not chase. It did not rush. It fired with precision, one strike at a time, and every strike was perfect. On one alien bridge, a young officer stared in horror. His hands shook as he whispered, How is this possible? His admiral gave no answer. He simply sat in silence, watching his fleet be torn apart. The veterans who remembered the old stories felt their blood run cold. The legends had said humans did not fight like others. They did not waste fire. They did not roar for pride. They killed with silence, with calculation, with inevitability. And this ship, this ghost from the past, was proving it true. Some ships tried to retreat. Engines roared as they turned to flee. But before they could reach safety, the human warship fired again. A ring of light expanded outward, silent and unstoppable. Retreating vessels disintegrated mid-flight, their pieces scattering like dust. The galaxy's proudest fleets were being broken apart like fragile toys. Desperation filled the comms. Admirals screamed orders, but few listened. Crews begged for mercy. Some tried to surrender, broadcasting signals of peace. The warship gave no reply. It was not here to talk. It was here to remind the galaxy of what they had forgotten. Minute by minute, the battle turned into slaughter. The alien fleets had thought themselves hunters. They had thought themselves rulers. But now, as their ships burned and vanished, they realized the truth. They were prey. A captain of the Drevik Combine tried to rally his squadron. Hold the line. We can outnumber it. We can... His words cut off as a beam struck his flagship, erasing it from existence. His squadron scattered like frightened birds. The human ship did not pursue. It did not need to. Wherever it turned, death followed. 4 minutes. That was all it had been since the first strike. 4 minutes, and fleets that had ruled entire sectors were reduced to wreckage and silence. The survivors floated in broken formations, too shocked to move. Some stared at the burning remains of their comrades. Some closed their eyes, waiting for their turn. The admiral, stripped of pride, sat frozen in disbelief. The human warship powered down its weapons. The glow faded, leaving it silent once more. It did not chase the survivors. It did not fire at the crippled ships. It simply turned and continued forward, as if none of them had ever mattered. The message was clear, though no words were spoken. Humanity had returned, and humanity did not need an army to remind the galaxy who they were. One ship was enough. As the survivors drifted in silence, a chilling thought spread through every mind. If one human ship could do this, what would happen if more appeared? The fear was deeper than defeat. It was not the loss of ships, not the loss of fleets. It was the realization that an old truth had returned. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not gone. Humanity was the storm the galaxy had prayed would never come again, and now it had begun. The void of space was quiet again, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of fear. Fragments of destroyed ships drifted slowly, glowing faintly as their fires died out. The fleets that had once filled the stars with light and noise now floated in broken formation, stunned into stillness. Across every bridge, crews whispered in disbelief. They had seen power before. They had seen weapons that could burn planets and cannons that could shatter moons, but nothing compared to what they had just faced. In less than 5 minutes, their greatest forces had been torn apart by a single warship. The admirals tried to keep control. Their voices filled the comms, sharp and desperate. "Regroup! Do not let it move forward. We can still hold the line." But the crews no longer believed them. Their hands shook. Their eyes stared at the massive vessel that moved so calmly, so slowly, as if the fleet surrounding it were nothing more than dust. Fear spread like a shadow. On one ship, a captain whispered to his officers, "If this is only one, what happens if there are more?" No one answered him. The thought was too heavy. The human warship did not chase the survivors. It simply glided forward, weapons quiet again, as if even destruction itself had been only a passing thought. That silence made the fear worse. The aliens had expected rage, noise, fire. Instead, the humans had answered with cold precision. They had killed without effort, without expression, and that made the galaxy tremble. A veteran admiral of the Korath Dominion leaned forward in his chair, his scales trembling. He remembered the old stories, legends told in hushed voices, stories of humans who fought entire coalitions alone, stories of fleets vanishing into silence. Most had dismissed those tales as myths. But now, staring at the silent warship, the admiral felt his chest grow tight. The legends had not been exaggerated. If anything, they had been too small. Across the fleets, morale collapsed. Ships drifted out of formation, captains ignoring orders. Some begged their admirals to retreat. Others tried to power up engines to flee, only to stop when the human ship turned slightly, its hull glowing faintly again. That single movement froze entire armadas in place. No weapon fired. No ship dared to move. It was as if the whole galaxy held its breath. Pride had brought them here. Pride had made them believe they could crush anything. Now that pride was gone, in its place was a deep, choking fear. One admiral of the Threx Empire tried to rally his forces. His voice shook as he spoke across the channels. "We are many. It is only one. We cannot allow ourselves to be broken by fear. If we unite, we can—" His words stopped. His image vanished from the comm screens as his flagship exploded into a silent cloud of debris. The human ship had not fired a broad strike. It had not destroyed his whole fleet. It had only chosen him. A single beam had ended his command, as if erasing a sentence from a page. The message was clear. The human warship did not need to fight all of them at once. It could strike at will. It could silence anyone, anywhere with a single flash. The admirals fell silent. Their crews no longer looked at them as leaders. They looked at them as targets waiting to be erased. On the smaller vessels, panic grew. Officers whispered, "Why are we still here? Why do we not flee?" But fleeing felt just as dangerous as staying. To turn engines on, to move without permission from that silent warship, felt like painting a mark on themselves. So they stayed still, trembling, waiting for something they could not control. Fear was not just in their voices. It was in their movements. Hands that once moved across controls with confidence now hesitated. Commands were delayed. Ships collided as nervous pilots failed to steer. Entire armadas began to look less like fleets of war and more like frightened animals huddled together. The human ship did not fire again. It did not need to. Its presence was enough. Every second it remained, the fear grew. On one bridge, an alien commander turned to his crew and whispered almost to himself, "This is not war. This is judgment," the word spread. Judgment. Some began to believe the humans had returned not to conquer but to punish, to remind the galaxy of what had been forgotten. And the worst part was that no one knew how many more ships like this one existed. Was this a lone shadow? Or the first sign of a storm? The admirals tried to form plans, but every idea sounded foolish. What defense could they build? What weapon could they create? Against something like this, even time felt useless. 4 minutes had ended thousands of ships. What chance did the rest of the galaxy have? And still the warship moved forward, silent and unhurried. It did not need to chase. It did not need to prove itself again. The fear it had planted was already enough to spread across systems, across empires, across the stars themselves. In that silence, the galaxy realized something it had long ignored. Humanity was not gone. Humanity was not weak. Humanity had only been waiting. And now, every admiral, every soldier, every frightened crew member felt the same cold truth in their hearts. The galaxy was no longer in control. The galaxy was prey once more. The galaxy had always believed in numbers. A single ship was nothing against thousands. A single fleet was nothing against empires. That belief had guided wars for centuries, but in this moment it shattered. The unknown human warship moved through the scattered armadas with the slow patience of a predator. It did not rush. It did not struggle. Every movement felt deliberate, every strike precise. Where it fired, ships vanished. Where it passed, silence followed. The alien admirals tried once more to restore order. Their voices filled the comms with desperate commands. "Hold your ground. Do not scatter. We are still many." But the fleets no longer listened. Pride had collapsed. Obedience had collapsed. Fear had taken hold. Entire squadrons broke formation. Ships fled in every direction, their engines burning hot with panic. Some tried to hide behind debris. Others jumped into hyperspace, leaving their comrades behind. But the human warship noticed. It always noticed. When a group of destroyers tried to retreat together, the warship fired a single burst of light. The destroyers, 5 ships strong, disintegrated at once, their wreckage scattering like ash. The survivors who saw it froze, realizing escape was no safer than staying. On another side of the battlefield, a dreadnought tried to shield its smaller allies, placing its massive hull between them and the human vessel. Its armor was said to withstand the combined fire of 3 fleets. It had fought for centuries without defeat. But when the human ship turned its weapon, a single beam cut straight through the dreadnought's heart. The giant vessel broke apart in silence, its burning halves drifting away like broken wings. The smaller ships scattered in terror, knowing no shield, no wall could protect them. 4 minutes had passed since the first strike. And in 4 minutes, the galaxy's strongest forces had been reduced to wreckage. The collapse was no longer just on the battlefield. It was inside the minds of every commander, every soldier, every species watching the horror unfold. The battlefield was no longer a battlefield. It was a graveyard. Wreckage drifted in every direction, broken ships glowing faintly as their fires died out. The mighty fleets that had once filled the stars were now scattered fragments, silent and cold. The human warship floated in the center of it all, quiet once more. Its weapons no longer glowed. Its engines did not roar. It simply existed, steady and calm, like a shadow that no storm could touch. Survivors stared at it from the bridges of their crippled ships. No one dared to move. No one dared to fire. The silence was unbearable, heavier than the battle itself. It was not the silence of safety. It was the silence of something waiting, something deciding. Admirals who had once commanded with pride now sat frozen in their chairs, their voices gone. Their ships had not only been defeated, their authority had been erased. What leader could command when their armies had fallen in minutes? What empire could claim strength after this? One captain whispered to his crew, his voice trembling. Why did it stop? His officers gave no answer. They all wondered the same. The warship could have finished them. It could have erased every last ship. Yet it chose not to. That choice was more terrifying than destruction. The survivors began to understand. This was not about victory. This was about memory. The humans had not come to conquer a world or claim resources. They had come to remind the galaxy of something it had forgotten. Stories would spread. They already knew that. Tales of fleets destroyed in 4 minutes. Tales of a single ship that silenced empires. The galaxy would whisper the name human again. And this time, the whispers would carry fear. The human warship turned slowly. Its massive frame shifted with quiet grace. For a moment, it faced the survivors directly, its hull glowing faintly in the dark. Entire crews held their breath. Some bowed their heads, some closed their eyes, certain the end had come. But the ship did not fire. It simply turned away, continuing its steady path into the void. It did not need to say anything. Its silence was the message. On one bridge, a young officer finally spoke the truth out loud. They did not come here to win. They came here to be remembered. His words echoed in the silence, and no one argued. Because it was true. Humanity had returned, and they had chosen their message carefully. The fear that filled the survivors was not only about the ship, it was about what could come next. If one vessel could do this, how many more existed? How many warships slept in the dark, waiting for the right moment? What would happen if a fleet of them appeared? Across the galaxy, this story would not be ignored. Empires would scramble. They would build new weapons. They would form new alliances. But in their hearts, they already knew. No preparation would be enough. Humanity had fought before, and when they fought, the galaxy broke. The fearful silence stretched on. Survivors drifted among the wreckage, their comms filled with nothing but static. None dared to chase the human ship. None dared to follow. They only watched as it disappeared into the dark, leaving behind ruins that would scar their memories forever. For generations, the galaxy had lived without fear of humans. That time was over. Now, every world, every empire, every commander would carry the same thought. Humanity had returned, and nothing could stop them. The wreckage remained behind as proof. Broken dreadnoughts, shattered carriers, burned cruisers. The stars themselves seemed dimmer in their presence. And among that wreckage drifted a new truth, heavier than all the debris combined. The galaxy was no longer the master of its fate. The humans had not asked for control. They had not demanded obedience. They had simply reminded the galaxy that they were out there. And that reminder was enough to change everything. The fearful silence that followed the human ship was not just in space. It would echo across worlds, across empires, across centuries. Children would hear the stories. Soldiers would whisper them in their barracks. Admirals would wake in the night, haunted by the thought of a silent warship tearing through their fleets in 4 minutes. The galaxy would never be the same again. And as the human ship disappeared into the distance, the survivors knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was only the beginning.